All right, everyone, and welcome to the weekend market wrap up with myself, Michael Nauss with Stats Ed Trading. Notice I'm outside again. It's Canada, not warm for very long, and I'm about to get rained in for 3 or 4 days. So I'm doing this from outside. As always, we go through stocks, we go through crypto, we go through FX. I give you some trade ideas going into next week. And as always, I mention this, I'm building a product with Substack that I'm going to allow access to the insides of what my algorithms produce, except, more than just a few names that I put out. So if you're interested in that, go to statsadtraining.com, sign up for the email list. I also have a completely free trading course there you can give a shot. And if you're interested in learning how to build a trading plan, I have something for you there as well. So, as always, here we're going to start with Bitcoin. Uh, Again, nothing really happened this week. We pulled back a little bit, but no big deal. I'm still looking at this kind of massive cup and then potential handle that's going on here. I know sentiment has gotten very bearish here on crypto, but this is still intact for me. And we have this big push. It makes sense that when we hit all-time highs that we're going to digest them for some time. That's all I'm seeing. If we break these lows right here, I think that will be when it's time to change tune. But until then, it's just an orderly pullback. Again, I'm talking about it for a long time. When you get to a prior high like this, it generally takes some time to digest. Now, one thing that's interesting is that Ethereum is actually outperforming right now Bitcoin. You can see the two big bottoming tails here on Ethereum as opposed to Bitcoin that did not. And again, doesn't mean that we have to turn around and rip to all-time highs here, but there is more room to go into Ethereum. If we got to 4,200, that's still not all-time highs. We're not at all-time highs till we almost get to 5,000. So a lot of room to go here in Ethereum. Interesting to see this kind of shift. You can see this if you go BTC, ETH, right? If this line is going higher, it means Bitcoin's outperforming. If it's going lower, it means Ethereum's outperforming. It looks like this may be actually headed a little bit lower. We could get a reversal, just showing again Ethereum and altcoins may be outperforming just a little bit there. Now going into just some of the FX space, I've been talking about Aussie CAD for a while. That's still setting up. We have a big anchored VWAP. If I draw it in just at this point, my face in the way. Here we go. Draw a big anchored VWAP in here, and you can see that for the last handful of weeks, we've been trading above that and then failing, and then trading above that and then failing. So it may be time for a little bit of a push lower here. And I've been watching this for a break of this kind of resistance right here, or the support right here, to see if this is going to reverse lower, maybe test this lower AVWAP, maybe test the support down here. Who knows? But that's what I'm watching here on Aussie CAD. If we just look at the dollar overall, DXY, dollar continues to push higher. Came into this zone that we were talking about, spent a few weeks here. Now it looks like it's trying to test these prior highs. It'll be interesting to see if we break right through that or if we reject lower, either remain inside this range or break lower. But again, so far up 3 weeks in a row to hit this high right here. Now, the only other kind of currency I want to talk about is the yen. The yen is going absolutely insane here. So within this candle right here, this is where the Bank of Japan intervened and said, we are not going to let our currency go down forever, right? And I guess easier to look if we just do this with futures. Yen futures. Japanese yen futures, right? So the Japanese yen has kind of completely fallen out of bed as they keep interest rates low and everyone else has raised them. So there's what's called a carry trade, which means you can borrow in yen and then you can put that money in, say, Aussie or US dollar, and you can get a spread because Japan is debt is near nothing, and then the returns you get from other countries are higher. So that's what's been going on for a while. But the Bank of Japan said enough. We're going to start buying our own currency if it gets too low. And now we're getting right back to that point right there. So the trend remains down. Pure trend traders, ignore what I say and just stick with this. For me, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, well, I think the risk is for a bounce here. If they're able to pull off another intervention, I'm going to be watching shorter time frames. And when shorter time frames, I mean daily or even something like a 4 hour chart would be kind of the lowest I'd go. And then look for areas to get violated because when these things happen, when they intervene, they happen pretty quickly because you're fighting the country. And that's the only thing I'm worried about there. Now let's take a look at gold, XAU, USD. Just still stuck in this range. Still a little bit worried about gold as we have those topping tails we talked about on the monthly chart, but we're consolidating. So if we consolidate here for a number of weeks or months, then that to me is just going to be more bullish for an upside break. XAG, which is silver. Silver is a little bit more interesting because yes, it's stuck inside this range, but it's actually been relatively strong to gold and it's bounced off these prior highs right here. So I'm watching silver to see if we're going to get a push up, even just to test this high here on lower time frames in the silver space. Now over to trade ideas to talk about equities. They have this just in case you don't know, and you can go to trade ideas, use Stats Edge for 15 code Stats Edge for 15% off at checkout. But they now have this My Scope sector, which is great on the web. I'm on a Mac, you can see, so I can just plug in the symbols that I want to take a look at and check them all out here with kind of the trade ideas software. Um, so first of all, I think we got to take a look at the SPY right away. For some reason, my not clicking here. Oh well, let's just use this for now. So I'm taking a look at the SPY here on the weekly chart, and you can see that we've pushed up, and then we've put in this little bit of a topping tail right here on the SPY. That's interesting, but I think a lot of that is just driven by NVIDIA, where you can see a little bit of a topping tail and a push down, and then the semiconductors as a whole, a big topping tail and then a push down. What I wanted to kind of more talk about is the sectors that are doing well. So let's take a look at MDY. And MDY is our mid caps. And we'll do this on the weekly chart because we're talking weekly right now. And the mid caps actually did okay. So remember the SPY, just looking at last week's candle, had a reversal potential topping tail and more of a strength in mid caps. And then if we go into IWM, which is small caps, more strength again. So this kind of leads me to potentially a scenario that we could be having in which you have rotation. So, rotation, generally speaking, in the stock market is when a sector or an industry has been doing very, very good and companies take profit off that sector or that industry, and then they apply that profit to other instruments. So, in this case, I made a bunch of money in Nvidia. I'm going to sell my Nvidia stocks, and then I'm going to look to buy something else. And they'll try to find something that has more value to it. So generally stocks that haven't gone yet. So potentially the IWM, potentially the mid caps. That's more of a sector that I think we can take a look at. Some other sectors that looked interesting is we have XBI actually put in a bottoming tail this week as opposed to a topping tail, holding very strong there in our biotechs. We have XLI, which is industrials, holding this kind of 120 area, very, very strong and pushing up, seeing that industrials maybe, and then XLV very, very strong, holding at these highs. So these are the kind of sectors that I'm going to watch going into next week to see if there's any setups that come along in individual names, knowing that, yes, we have this kind of potential rotation that's taking place, which is bad for people who are just going to try to hold NVIDIA and semiconductors for the rest of their life. Great for us that are okay with, we take a trade here, we make some money, we move our money over here, we take a trade there. That's kind of what I'm thinking that we potentially could see. So, as always, I'm going to show you some names from my algos. Again, these are going to be more of these are going to be provided in Sasa Trading, or yeah, the Substack. You can sign up for it at sasatrading.com. I'm running 3 algorithms currently. One is a weekly breakout strategy. I find trend following and breakouts seem to work better on the longer term charts. Next is a daily pullback strategy. So that weekly trend following strategy, those trades could last for weeks to months to potentially even longer. The daily strategy, the idea is I'm going to buy pullbacks and we're going to look for a couple days to potentially a couple weeks. And then I have an intraday strategy that essentially is looking for a second day play of a really strong news driven move and is looking to take advantage of some of that. And that's something that will be held for a day and maybe 2 or 3 days. It's one of those, if it closes strong, maybe I'll hold a position in that kind of thing. So that's the idea behind what I'm doing. So AI is something that came from the weekly pull or breakout strategy, pullback strategy. And the reason for this, we go to AI, AI, AI. Oh, I'm on the stocks. All right. Then we go 1 day and move me. The idea is that if we take the all-time low in AI and we anchor a VWAP to that, we have this very strong pullback that has hit this level right here. So the idea is if we see strength on Monday, we look to buy some of this. Our stop loss goes under this low right here, and we see if we can get a couple days move out of that guy. Next is, there was one more, PLCE, I believe. Yeah, PLSE, sorry. Same idea. We have a anchored VWAP right from this low right here. That one. We're pulling back into it. Got some oversold readings on some indicators I'm using for it. We're going to look to see if we can get a bounce off of that level as well. And then for the weekly breakout systems, we're going to take a look, move this to a weekly chart. One here is Chewy. So Chewy did very, very strong after earnings up here, spent a few weeks consolidating, and is now broken out of this particular level. So the idea is we're going to look to see if we can get involved sometime next week. No reason just to take the trade, but the algorithm was built for you just buy it on Monday's open. Again, as a trader, I'm going to always use algorithms to point me in the right direction and know there's some statistics on my side. And then I'm going to dive into the individual charts and try to fine tune things a little bit. So Chewy, a nice breakout there on Chewy. So we're going to try to see if we can get a trade in there. Ryan, Ryan, a nice breakout of this resistance right here as well. So I like the look of that guy. We have, last but not least, XPRO. Nice strong move. This one's been strong for a very long time, from the end of 2023 till now. A nice up move. 7 days to cover, which is pretty significant for this name, and a solid breakout next week that we're going to look to see if we can get some continuation on. So that is the look of the market, and that is the ideas for next week. Thank you all for coming by. I'm planning on putting out more videos next week when it comes to this a trade a day. A lot of people are liking this. I tried it last week, so we're going to do a little bit more next week. If you don't know what that is, for my email subscribers, I'm sending out an email every day with just kind of a detailed breakdown of one idea that I have going in for tomorrow. Most of them aren't going to trigger. It's just the nature of it. I'm someone who, I spend a lot of time researching a setup. I plan out the setup, and I just know most of the time I'm not going to get a trigger. And then even half of the time when I get a trigger, I'm going to be wrong. So the ideas are very interesting. They're more of a me walking through my thought process when I'm looking at a trade. So again, you can sign up for that over at statsedgetrading.com. I'm going to try to make more videos about those and embed those into the email as well as put them on the channel as well. So thank you guys for stopping by. And until I talk to you next time, get away from the screens.